We're streaming to YouTube. The mics are on. We're ready when you are, Chair Griswold.
Okay, thank you. I call this June 3rd, 2025 Planning and Zoning regular meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please silence your devices. Vice Chair Hornseth, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is roll call. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Pemberton.
Here.
Hubbard.
Here.
Fairhay.
Here.
Charbonneau.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Hornseth.
Present.
And Chair Griswold.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comments on any subject except those items scheduled for a public hearing. Those public hearings include recommendations for a rezone and building height code changes. Clerk, is anyone signed in to speak?
Nobody is signed in.
Would anyone in the audience wish to speak? No? Okay. Then, next on the agenda is approval of the agenda and consent agenda. I need a motion to approve and a second.
I'll make to approve these.
Oh, raise your hand, please.
No.
Claire.
I move to approve the agenda, the consent agenda.
I'll second it. Thank you, June. Commissioner Pemberton. And are there any changes to the agenda and consent agenda? Okay. I would like to delete Resolution 2025-021 regarding building height code changes. The Commission has only heard from a few hoteliers and multifamily developers and very few residents regarding these sweeping changes to our town's small-town character, historic district, and neighborhoods. The comp plan survey shows that 75% of respondents support a building height of 34 feet or less, which is not reflected in this resolution. The resolution has unintended consequences that have not been considered. I believe this public hearing is premature and we should hold at least one more work session, preferably in the fall when more residents might participate. Does anyone object?
I object.
Okay.
I think we're good to go on it personally.
That's fine. And then I'm going to make a formal motion. I move to delete Resolution 2025-021 from the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think we've had several work sessions on this. We've heard from the public, and even if it does pass here, it's still going to go by City Council, so there's going to be plenty of time for public input and to get the word out. In regards to the survey also asked for 3 stories, not necessarily 34 feet. So with modern building code, as we discussed, 38 feet gets you to 3 stories. 34 limits you to less than 3 stories for most things. So I think going ahead is within the public interest. It helps alleviate our housing crisis. It's an important thing to continue on the path down, and there's plenty of room for public input.
Okay. Any other comments?
I have a comment as well, Chair Griswold. I would concur with Commissioner Hornseth regarding that, because we've had a lot of discussions on it. The council will review it and beat it to death as well. And I think what we'll have is, originally the 34 feet was due to the ladder truck issue from back in the day, and that subsequently has been found not to be relevant anymore. So I would think we should go ahead and proceed.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm torn a bit. I agree with Commissioner Hornseth and Chair Griswold. Both of those. I do believe we've spent quite a bit of time on this, and I like that we've spent that much time. But kind of most of that time we've spent on, we haven't had very many public people come. It's just been construction, hotel rates. I mean, I think a couple meetings there was only one person, and it was somebody who wanted to build a larger hotel because they wanted to make more money. This survey does say 3 stories, and that's kind of where I'm torn in between, because 3 stories, we've agreed and talked with many people that 3 stories is a 38 feet. So I feel that we haven't had enough public come forward and talk about this. Whether they will come in another work session is what I don't know. I would like more people to come, but usually they don't.
I'm here for the public hearing. The public is here.
Yes, Ron?
We're talking about 21 here, right? Resolution 21. And I think that there is some extra stuff regarding the 48-foot restriction or allowance, and that really wasn't addressed as much. It's covering a lot there, and I would like some further discussion, at least on that piece. I'm ready to go on the 38-foot height or the 3-story height, whatever, but there's some things that were slipped in for the 48-foot cost and the whole across over on the east side. I have some questions about, not that we can't plow through them tonight with the resolution on the table, maybe personal amendments or whatever, but I just kind of want to see where the conversation goes, so.
Okay. Yes?
So I went to all 3 of the meetings, and there were a lot of people there that weren't so much in the business of being hotels or building apartment buildings and things like that. So I think they have spoken, but on the other hand, people have checked that they want 3 stories. So, and also I've spoken with some people here in this area, and keeping the buildings the way they are historically seems to be important from what I'm hearing, just asking. And so I would say we do go for another work session, just so that we can clarify, like you're talking about the 40-some feet, we can clarify that, we can clarify where it's gonna be done, and I just think it's really important. I mean, if you're looking at the numbers, what we're seeing there, as opposed to, how many people have attended and how many people have come in. That's where I'm at.
I'd like to point out the survey. Everyone has a copy. It doesn't say anything about 38 or 43 feet. It says Seward currently has a building height restriction of 34 feet, in part to preserve the character of neighborhoods. This height can approximately accommodate a 3-story building. So I don't trust that people knew that they were voting for a 38-foot 3-story building. It clearly says 34 feet. So that's where I added up 75% of the people said yes to 3 stories or less. So it's really not clear that this data supports our moving forward with 38 feet for 3-story. So that's my point on that survey.
Would like to also point out that the next highest rating is for 1 to 2 story.
Correct.
It's not for 4 story.
Right.
If things were leaning more towards 4, then you could maybe draw the assumption that 38 would be acceptable, because more people were thinking, well, 4 inch, but this next highest is 1 to 2. So clearly people want that or less. The majority.
Right. So that led me to the conclusion that we really haven't had a lot of input from residents about going higher to 38, and then in certain special circumstances, 43 feet. Any other discussion before we call for the vote? Clerk, would you please call for the vote?
Okay, so you're voting on to delete Resolution 2025-021 from the agenda. So a yes vote would go towards deleting the resolution. Charbonneau,
Yes.
Sullivan,
No.
Pemberton,
Yes.
Hornseth,
No.
Hubbard,
No.
Verhey,
No.
and Griswold.
Yes.
So 3 in favor, 4 against, that motion has failed.
Okay. Moving on, would there be any interest to postpone the resolution until September? Pretty much based on the same reasoning?
Yes, because I think people need to be made aware of what they were asked. You know, and I think if they come in, then we should make them aware of it.
We're not gonna have another work session on it, then I don't think we need to postpone. So if the intention is to postpone to September and put a work session in, then perhaps, but not just without a work session.
I think we need, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think we need to have another work session on it, not just a meeting.
Let me ask the clerk, is it possible to postpone this resolution and schedule a work session? Postpone till September, for example?
Well, if it's postponed until September, I think it would be possible to squeeze in a work session between now and then.
Any other discussion on postponing until September and having a work session to clarify points? Go ahead.
So,
Commissioner.
say we hypothetically work on this, pass something, send it to council, they're going to have a work session also, right?
I don't know.
It's not required.
Usually they-
Invariably, they will have something as it is so contentious potentially, so I would think so. And that's why my original point was, if we move it down somewhat down the road, it will get to the venue that they can actually make some good decisions about if they want to, ask for input from us if need be, and usually the council is where people show up and express a lot more of their opinion, more so. And I'm seeing people nodding in the audience, so I personally think we should move it on and then let it go with the council.
Could I ask a question of the clerk? Is it routine for council to schedule a work session on a big ordinance?
I would say no, it's typically just the public hearing format. It's introduced as an ordinance and then it has a public hearing.
5 minutes.
A work session would be unusual.
But it would still have the opportunity to have it discussed at a public hearing.
Yes, Commissioner Hubbard.
We have people here that came here specifically to discuss this, and even if we postpone it, would you lighten the rules to allow them to have some input on this regardless, so that they're not just here wasting their time, that they could capitalize on the time that we have them here?
I think they would not be allowed to participate in a public hearing because it would be postponed, and they would be restricted to the 5 minutes at the end, or the 3 minutes at the beginning. So they would have 2 opportunities, if we postpone it, to speak during citizens' comments.
Well, citizen comments are over at this point.
Oh, that's right,
But
you already.
with the
5
5-minute
minutes
comments at the end.
Sorry. Thank you. Any other discussion on postponing till September?
Yeah, but
Scheduling a work session?
And were you thinking September, just that's when we're gonna have time, or why September?
Because summer's so busy for residents, struggling to make a living.
Just feels like kicking it down the road a little bit lengthy when we've had a lot of work sessions already leading up to this, and we do have some public here that potentially wants to build, so impacting them as well. It just seems a little far out to postpone.
Yes.
I'm not sure why we would postpone it to September. I feel like we've had this through the whole winter. There's been plenty of opportunity for public to come to these meetings. I don't see why another work session for more public input is going to change anything. As far as I can tell, this resolution does capture both our reservations about a 4-story structure and restricts it to the locations we agreed on in the work session, as far as I can tell. So I'm not sure what the additional clarification is in the work session either.
Any other discussion? Okay. Clerk, would you please call for the roll?
Okay. Voting to postpone this resolution until September, and a yes vote would be in favor of postponing. Sullivan,
No.
Pemberton,
Yes.
Hubbard,
No.
Fairhay,
No.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Hornseth,
No.
and Chair Griswold.
Yes.
So 3 in favor, 4 against, so that motion has failed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk please take the roll call vote on the agenda and consent agenda?
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda. Sullivan,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Pemberton,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
and Chair Griswold.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and approved on the consent agenda are the May 6, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes and Resolution 2025-019 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending Kenai Peninsula Borough approval of the preliminary plat of a portion of land located at 303 2nd Avenue, vacating the interior lot lines and creating one lot.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is special orders, presentations, and reports. There are no proclamations or awards. Would the staff like to give a report?
Thank you, Chair Griswold. As everyone knows now, the comprehensive plan surveys have closed, and just wanted to give an update on numbers. For that first visionary survey, we received 379 responses, which is very exciting. Quality of life survey, so that was our people survey, 319. Land use, 263, and then economy, 235, for a total of 1,196 responses between the 4 surveys. So pretty pleased with that. So for next steps, right now we're working with the consulting firm that helped us facilitate the town hall meetings, and hopefully we'll have like a final kind of summary of those here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll kind of use that template too. And Courtney and I will basically in-house start going through the survey questions. That'll be kind of our summer project when we have some downtime, but with the goal at some point, maybe end of summer, early fall, compiling information from the surveys and the town halls and have some sort of presentation, maybe at a work session, to give to the commission. And then we'll use that information to reach back out for another round of public engagement, community organization, stakeholder interviews, whatnot. And yeah, so we'll keep you in the loop on that process. If anyone's interested, we are still interviewing for our executive assistant position in our office. So if anyone is interested in learning more about it, feel free to reach out to myself or Courtney. And then one thing I want to just bring to the commission's attention is when we came back from the National Planning Conference, I think a big thing for me for that conference was learning about resources. And so like coming into this job last year, and I think Commissioner Sullivan mentioned the drinking from a fire hose often. That's how it still feels some days, and oftentimes wouldn't know like where to find certain resources. And so that was a great organization to get connected with. And I, when it came back, wanted to start building up our library, depending on the different topics that we have been talking about. The whole building height thing started with the overarching housing conversation last September. And so one of the really interesting conversations I went to at the conference was called Missing Middle Housing. And so this kind of book that outlines and identifies just different areas of housing that is missing in a lot of municipalities that could be used. And so ordered a couple of those. We've been talking about parking, and so this is the book, The High Cost of Free Parking, was the one I mentioned in the presentation last work session, where Donald Shoup talks about the current paradigm of parking and some of the issues and alternatives out there. And then he also has parking in the city. And so this one is case studies, I think around 50 of them, of different towns that have implemented some different parking reform and just their stories and what's happened since then. And then this one, I think you've heard, Commissioner Hubbard, Paved Paradise, which the Los Angeles Times calls highly entertaining for a parking book. So there's that one, and then there were some zoning conversations we went to, and so Courtney recommended this one, Arbitrary Lines. It talks about maybe zoning reform in some aspect, and so we've ordered a couple of these books, and so we want to make sure that these are available to you all, and as you are finding your own research, or if you get recommendations from other people and you're like me that prefers like a book to read versus just reading on a computer, let us know. I think I've mentioned it before, but you all have an education budget line item, and so there's some funds available that we can order, and so I'd really like to kind of stock up our library so that you all have resources that you can use. And so that being said, at the end of the meeting, I know June's already grabbed a couple of these, feel free. We've got, again, 2 in our office, and so we've got some more up there, so feel free to let us know if you want to check any of these out, or if you have any other resources you'd like us to order, as we would be happy to do so. That's what I got.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on. There are no other reports or announcements, and there are no presentations. Next on the agenda is public hearings. First on the agenda is a public hearing for Resolution 2025-020, starting on page 19 of the packet. Clerk, will you please read the title into the record?
Resolution 2025-020 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council approval of the land use amendment to rezone the property located at 2500 Laurel Street from a Resource Management RM zoning district to an auto commercial AC zoning district, and the property located at 1000 Hemlock Avenue from an institutional zoning district to an auto commercial AC zoning district.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Pemberton?
I'll
And is there a second? Commissioner Hubbard. Would the staff please provide a short summary?
Yes. So turn your attention to page 23 of the packet, which has a map showing these 2 properties. Both of these properties are city-owned parcels, and the reason for this rezone, if you flip to the next page on page 24, you'll see the yellow outline of the new tracts of land that the commission approved in their last meeting, which was the land swap replat, if you recall, between the private property owner and then the city properties there. So as you can tell from the map here on page 24, with that land swap and the new boundaries of these new parcels, there would be some split zoning going on in both of these new tracts, and so we're trying to prevent this issue and move forward with this rezone, which would rezone the city properties both to auto commercial, which are the same as the privately owned parcels. So then once the borough approves this the preliminary plat for the land swap, they'll all be rezoned auto commercial at that point, and then the city could potentially in the future rezone back to institutional resource management if they feel that's more appropriate to that area. Well, in speaking to the city manager and the public works director, auto commercial does give the city more potential for that land in the future, though. So that's why it was picked in this rezone.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing. Clerk, is anyone signed in to speak?
Nobody is signed in.
Does anyone in the audience wish to speak? Nope. I will now close the public hearing. The record is now closed, and no further comments or records will be accepted. Would Commissioner Pemberton like to comment? And then Commissioner Hubbard?
I think I agree with this. I think it'd be a good thing for this.
Okay. Commissioner Hubbard, do you have any comments?
No, I just think it cleans up the zoning and land use. It probably should be consistent, so the city, I think that's probably been a recommendation from the administration as well. So.
Any other comments from the Commissioner? Commissioner Sullivan?
I think what it is, I think it's a good move in the sense that it tidies it up. It This was sort of a haphazard layout, and, you know, it just didn't particularly look good. I think by turning to auto commercial gives people a lot of options, city options, and eventually if they choose to sell it or do whatever they want to do with it, it gives, you know, whether they want to do something or not, it's there, and they have many potentials to work with it. So I think it's overall a good idea. It tidies it up and gives options.
Anyone else? Okay.
I have a question for staff. Just-
That be okay? Okay.
So, this is, track 5B1 is, or 5B2, doesn't it go all the way here? Is this shaded correctly?
Sorry,
That she-
can you rephrase that one?
I thought that we switched this for this, so therefore isn't this the city property now and this is the
Right,
private
so
property, right?
the yellow boundaries are the new
city property. Okay,
property boundaries,
okay.
yes.
Okay. Getting confused with all these colors, I'm sorry.
They tried. I know, it's confusing.
Do some coloring here.
Have fun. So Planning and Zoning previously recommended approval of the preliminary plat for this land swap, recognizing that the split zoning would need to be corrected. Rezoning the two original city parcels from resource management and institutional to auto commercial will bring all the parcels into compliance and provide more development options for the city and adjacent property owners. Are there any final comments from staff? Clerk, would you please call for the vote?
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2025-020, Charbonneau,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Pemberton,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
and Chair Griswold.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for Resolution 2025-021, starting on page 29 of the packet. Clerk, would you please read the title into the record?
Resolution 2025-021 of the Planning and Zoning Commission recommending City Council amend Seward City Code 15.10.220 and Table 15.10.222 development requirements regarding the language and regulations pertaining to building height.
Thank you. Does any commissioner need to declare conflict of interest on this resolution? Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Commissioner Charbonneau?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-021.
Thank you. And the second? Commissioner Hornseth?
I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you. Would the staff please provide a short summary?
Yes. So for commissioners and public, page 34 shows the proposed code changes, and this is the ordinance that would be recommended by the commission to be forwarded to city council. So the ordinance is changing essentially three parts here. So we start on page 34. Letter B is the description of building height, and we're striking that the purpose of building height standards is to prevent loss of life or excessive property damage through the inability of the city fire department to reach upper stories or roofs, as that has been proven to be incorrect now. And so we've stricken that sentence, but then we've also added that the purpose of building height is to help maintain the character of neighborhoods through balanced development and historic preservation, and to protect access to views, light, and privacy. So that's the first piece of the change. Then the second piece, we'll jump down to the development requirements table. So the very first row there that lists the maximum building height requirements. In all of the zoning districts, the building height has been raised from 34 feet to 38 feet, which, as explained at the beginning of the meeting by a variety of the commissioners, this was to allow for a true three-story building with current building standards requiring additional space, and so a 34-foot building doesn't fit a three-story building anymore without making expensive adjustments to the architecture of the building. But I want to point out that in the Harbor Commercial, we do have that area of 26 feet being limited to the area bounded by J-Float and the South Harbor Uplands. And I've provided a laydown to kind of to show that area if there was any confusion about that. And so that is remaining in the code. It would just be all other areas in the Harbor Commercial outside of that area would go up to 38 feet. And then you'll notice that on the far column where you have maximum building height, and then it says C note 1, and then we're adding another note, note 9. So then if you scroll down to page 38, you'll see note 9 there that says, if approved by a conditional use permit, buildings up to 48 feet in height may be allowed if the criteria specified in 15.10.220B1 have been met. And so that would bring us back to the first page we looked at page 34, which lists that criteria for a conditional use permit for buildings up to 48 feet. So the criteria are 3 parts. First, the location, and there are 3 bullet points here for the location, and I provided in the packet a map of those 3 locations. So north of Hemlock Avenue, south of Dickgraff Road, east of Spruce Street, and west of Seward Highway. Then east of Nash Road, or south of Morris Avenue. And the second requirement is that the proposed development must be an allowed use within the underlying zoning district. And then the third requirement would be that the structure must be a multifamily dwelling, condominiums, or townhomes with units or dwellings no smaller than 2 bedrooms, or a hotel or a multi-use building that incorporates commercial and residential uses. So this particular requirement has been put in here given the feedback that we received from the public, as taller buildings have been requested and needed for residential uses. And so we've restricted those taller buildings, the ones that could be allowed up to 48 feet, to structures that accommodate residential uses. And those are the proposed changes that this ordinance is recommending.
Thank you. Any quick questions for staff?
I do.
Yes, Commissioner.
One, we're talking about 3 stories. And if you're referring to your
Survey.
Comprehensive plan.
survey, yeah, if you're referring to that, it specifically said 34 feet at the very top when the question was asked. So what other data are you using to come up with that?
So, yeah, the survey says approximately can accommodate, and so the 3-story buildings that you'll see in town, they have situations where they're usually on a slope. And so if you'll notice also, we provided a laydown of how to calculate the height of a building. And so if a building is on a slope, because of where the reference datum gets placed due to that change in topography, you can accommodate approximately a 3-story building within that 34 feet, but also other structural things, the older buildings that you see use, smaller materials, where the more modern buildings that are being built require larger materials. And so there's those things that play into this, but yeah.
But if you're using this, Courtney, what I'm saying is this is skewed the way it's asked. So if you're using this as just the way the question is asked.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that we're...
And I went to all 3, so, I've seen this question up there. So what I'm saying is, if you're using this, I think the way that it's being justified is wrong. I'm not saying it is wrong itself, but I am saying that by using something like this, you have skewed data.
We're not using the survey results for that 38 feet. The 38 feet comes from the input that we received from the building inspector and from the public developers that have...
I just want to clarify that.
Okay. Let's see. I will now open the public hearing.
Is there, at what point do we get to clarify some things with staff?
Is it quick? Or is it a big discussion?
Well, I was just wondering on the harbor commercial area that's, has limits, why is not the boundary incorporating all of the uplands?
That's a good question, because in note 1 it says that within the harbor commercial zoning district, and so the South Harbor Uplands is split zoned. Half of it is park and half of it is harbor commercial, and so that's why.
Oh, sweet, so
boundary.
that's park there, just south?
Correct.
Okay, so you're not going to see 34 or 38 feet buildings there anyway? Or could you?
You could if it got rezoned.
Well, if it got rezoned to harbor commercial, it would fall within that restricted area, 26 feet.
But park, you're not gonna see a lot of buildings.
Right, park has very limited land uses,
Right.
but there are certain land uses that it does allow with conditional use permits that would be buildings, but
Well, we have a
so I can't
memorial
say
there
with
already.
certainty that you wouldn't see
Yeah.
a structure there, but it would be unlikely.
Yeah, like the memorial itself is what, it's like 30 feet, I think, or something like that. Okay. Also, on the, over across the bay, we have, the map I'm looking at, you're talking 48 feet east of this area, or excuse me, east of the Nash Road, and then south of Morris Avenue, all the way here. So nothing up in here is 48 feet potentially, or yes, I guess it would be from Nash Road. So you're talking all this inclusion here, as well as over on the, over in Nash Road too. In the corner of Nash Road where we pick up that little corner there too. So
Correct.
all that would be 48 foot
Correct.
allowed.
And I believe they're,
And that's with the CUP. That's only with the CUP, the 48
Okay.
feet. So they'd still have to come before the board.
Okay, because I had thought that we just specified a couple areas, just.
We can address that at the
Okay.
public hearing.
All right, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay. I now open the public hearing. Clerk, is there anyone signed in to speak?
There's one person signed in, Kelly Hatfield.
Okay. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Please sit at the table, speak clearly into the microphone, state your name, and whether you live inside or outside city limits.
And Kelly, could you check if that mic is on? The switch is on the top. Just push it towards you. Blue? Okay.
My name is Kelly Hatfield. I live outside of city limits. I have property inside of city limits. Thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate that. And thank you for all of your time. I know how hard your job is. I used to be on planning and zoning as well. I would just like to make a case for the 38-foot building limits. I think that if we're going for what our vision for Seward is, everybody wants to have more density because we need more housing. We can't build out, we must build up. Making it 34 feet doesn't necessarily make it impossible to build 3 stories. I think the Seward Gateway Hotel is a good example of that. It's still 3 stories. Large developers who are able to absorb those costs are still able to build 3 stories. What you're doing is making it more difficult for people like me to build 3 stories because I don't have the resources to incorporate the extra costs it would take to build 3 stories. The Seward Gateway, if you think of that, if it's 4 foot taller, is it changing the view shed that much? I don't think so. It's still 3 stories. It would have been 4 feet taller perhaps. In my case, I'm looking to build a mixed-use commercial and residential building, and if I'm not able to build 3 stories, which I may not be able to afford it based on the building heights how they are now, what's going to go away is not the commercial use, the housing that I'm planning on putting in. If I can only build 2 stories, we're going to end up with less housing because I can't afford the building to take away anything else. So my plan would be to have 3 or 4 units of long-term housing, maybe 1 unit of nightly rental, in order to cover costs, and a commercial space on the bottom. In order to have the ability to do that, I would probably need the 38 feet to do that. So I'd like to give that to, I know that it's not just me, I'm not looking for just for me, but generally speaking, if you want to have more people being able to build long-term housing, then you need to make that an easier thing, not a harder thing. Right now, I'm feeling pushed in a lot of ways in order to go into building a hotel or building all just nightly units instead of long-term housing. You're making it more difficult for me to do the thing that I think that everyone in the city would like to have happen. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else wishing to speak? You know the drill.
I know the drill. Tom Tugas, Inside City Limits. I was astonished to see this. I didn't see it before, but I've been dealing with this 26-foot limitation for 15 years because, of course, I lease a property from the Alaska Railroad, which is where the current yacht club property is. And for years, of course, the train, Carol will remember this, the train used to come all the way up pretty much to Ray's, and that's all Alaska Railroad land. So where the Harbor 360 is on Harbor leased land, where the yacht club building is on Harbor leased land. And this is the only area within Seward that is limited to 26 feet. And when I leased this property, I leased it with the intention of building a small boutique hotel there. But between the high cost of leasing the land from the Alaska Railroad and the restrictions from the city, there's no way you can make it make sense because of the requirement for having a boardwalk like behind the Harbor 360, which I would intend to do. We're already required to have that. So I've asked, why is this small area? So what I've always been told is that when it says the harbor basin, that it's a very narrow strip of land here. Most of this is city property, but this is railroad property. And when I asked why is this the only place in Seward that's limited to 26 feet, they said it was because of a personal vendetta between certain people and Jim Pruitt. This all comes back to vendettas between people and Jim Pruitt, and that's clearly what, as I understand it, that's why this area was limited to 26 feet. And if you look at this chart, it's the only item, and it's a severe restriction. 26 feet means that you basically can, there's right now a 36-foot building on there, which is the yacht club building. And then after the yacht club building was put there, then there was this issue between certain individuals and Jim Pruitt, so they decided to limit it to 26 feet. And it doesn't make any sense, number one, it doesn't make any sense to have this submerged land be part of this, because you're certainly not going to build 26-foot buildings on the submerged lands, which are obviously owned by the city. So it's really, what we're talking about is this very narrow strip, and this is all city property, which would require a conditional use permit anyway, but it has created a very great restriction. There's no reason for it to be 26 feet. When you look at your table here, everything else is standardized except this one area that, from everything I understand, was kind of a personal thing. And I think that for consistency, harbor commercial and auto commercial should be the same. And like I said, I've been dealing with this for 15 years. I've talked to at least the last 4 or 5 city managers about it, and they said, yeah, we're going to get to that, but of course they never get to it, because before you know it, there's a new city manager. So anyway, I would like to see the harbor commercial, instead of saying varies 26 or 38, I think to be consistent, it should all say 38 feet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, I will now close the public hearing. The record is now closed and no further comments or records will be accepted. Let me just check. Would Commissioner Charbonneau like to comment?
Yeah, so we put a lot of time into this, obviously, and I have some issues with it. During the last work session, most of the commission didn't seem to follow, so we ended up with what we have here. From what Commissioner Hubbard has been looking at over there and pondering multiple different questions about this, and based on the public's comments about this area here, it appears to me that this goose is not cooked yet. And if we're gonna start talking about this issue here and those issues there in multiples, that seems like more of than just making amendments. It's larger than just going, well, I'll just amend this real quick on the fly. So at first I was okay, reluctantly, to just kind of move through with this, but it seems like now, I'm still waiting after to hear all of your comments, but just from the short little bit, it seems like we need some more discussion on it. That's all my comments.
Okay, and that is followed by Commissioner,
I didn't second this.
Who
Did it? Did I second?
Yeah.
it?
yes, it was you, B.
I thought I said,
Commissioner Hornseth.
but I wasn't.
Yeah, I'd like to say, yeah, we have worked hard on this. I don't know if we're gonna have like a super consensus on this, because it is a contentious issue. But I think we put in the best protections we can, especially regarding the four-story buildings, where they are restricted to small areas that are mostly undeveloped right now, and they require a conditional use permit. The harbor did come up at one point during our discussion, and we just elected to keep it. That could be something we revisit in the future if there's more feedback on that, but basically we did talk about that before, and we elected to keep it as is, which it shows. So I feel like we have addressed all this stuff, and you know, I think even if it's not perfect, it's good to push it forward, and we can always come back and add, you know, future changes, revise it. But I think we have a pretty good piece of legislation there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Pemberton?
I think it needs to be reworked. I said that the last time, so. I do. That's just how I feel. I think that things haven't been answered, and if we're trying to answer them and we set them right the first time, so we're not wasting more time reworking and reworking and reworking things, just passing them because of this or because of that, I do think we need to take a better look at it. That's just my thought on it.
Commissioner Hubbard?
Point of clarification, on the harbor commercial area, it was me that wanted to propose making that 26 feet even further out to Port Avenue, and decided we couldn't do that because there's going to be all these buildings that were not compliant. So is it, I didn't think about the yacht club that Mr. Tukas brought up, so that currently is non-compliant, am I correct? Okay. So it, and then if we move over east of Nash Road, if we do the 48 feet, even there, wouldn't there be buildings over there that are non-compliant? Because we have buildings that are higher than 38 feet, or 48 feet, and they're not meeting these conditions.
All of the buildings over in the SMIC area that are taller than 34 feet have variances. So they are compliant.
Okay. I would like to maybe submit an amendment, possibly.
Go ahead.
I would like to amend the resolution to withdraw item 2 and 3, I mean, excuse me, 1A, 2 and 3,
Could you say what page you're on, please?
page 34,
Okay.
from the ordinance for further discussion. And when I get a second, I will
So
speak to that.
could you please repeat that? Page 34,
Page 34, I would like to strike item B1, 2 and 3, which reads east of Nash Road or south of Morse Avenue.
Chair Griswold,
yes.
just if I may, because I know we had some discussion of a potential amendment with that as well, and I have a laydown. I don't know if it might be more beneficial to discuss maybe amending the verbiage here to better clarify the areas that you would, and the commission would be comfortable having 48 feet versus just striking them.
Okay, yeah, I'm comfortable with 1, but 2 and 3, which involves across the bay, I would like to see that.
The commissioners have this laydown.
Map 3, right?
This is the laydown. Here, pass it.
Sorry.
So looking, Commissioner Hubbard, at this new outline of yellow there, would that be a more appropriate area for the 48 feet instead of the larger area that encompassed Mount Alice and...
I was also considering the area in map. So is this new laydown, is that what's noted here, or is that what we're trying to?
No,
That's what was on it.
that was a concern that the chair brought up as well, and so we prepared this laydown as a potential amendment to that area. So instead of saying east of Nash Road, it would say east of Nash Road except for the Mount Alice tract of land, as well as the Alaska State DNR land to the east. But if there are more areas that you're concerned with, then yeah, we should probably.
Rhonda, would you consider just doing one at a time? Amending it one at a time? So we can discuss each point separately instead of striking both at the same time?
Sure. I just haven't, it just said the number 2 was not in our conversations last time, so I will do that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll start with 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you please restate your amendment?
Yes, I would like to remove from the building height B, subsection 1A, subsection 2, from the
And that line reads
From the resolution.
East of Nash Road, or, so that line would be stricken completely.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Well, the problem is that east of Nash Road includes both of this area and this area. So we have to say east.
So which area are you trying to amend right now?
Well, they're suggesting doing, yeah, I guess it would be east of Nash Road, so it would be these two. Because we're up in the corner, we're grabbing that piece, and then there's this, then the pieces across the bay. See what I'm saying? So this is,
So you're looking to eliminate the possibility of 4 stories on the other side of the bay.
I don't want to eliminate it.
That's what would happen if you make that amendment.
Could I suggest perhaps more just general discussion before an amendment is made, so we don't paint ourselves into a corner? Just if
Would that
it's,
be okay with you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we discuss, what's on the table right now is east of Nash Road. Everyone knows where that is, and we have some maps to refer to.
Commissioner Chairman? Commissioner Chairman. Sorry. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So since we're re-talking about these, can we still do something special to have the people that have already spoken be able to speak again?
They can speak at the end. Unfortunately, that's their time.
Okay, thank you.
So, right now, we're talking about 48 feet on the east side of the bay, on the east side of Nash Road. And I'd like to call your attention to this laydown map. And the original maps in our packet included, let's see if I can find that page, included, well, it's map 3, I don't see the page number. No, page 42. So map 3 included a huge area. And this is the first time, just so the public knows, this is the first time that we have seen these maps. And it really helps me visualize what we were talking about. So I was kind of shocked to see how big that area was. And I proposed this smaller area, which is in 4th of July Creek Valley, which in my mind is what we were mostly talking about. Go across the bay, it's a flat terrain, would not be close to the water. You set back on the east side of Nash Road. It's in a developable area, and it includes SMIC and that resource management section that we spoke about quite a bit for maybe Coast Guard housing, who knows. The prison and some city property and the rock quarry. But it eliminates the mountainous, rugged terrain of Mount Alice, Wild 4th of July Creek, and that rugged terrain up to Godwin Glacier. And it's so big it doesn't even fit on the original map 3. That property goes off the map. So to me, this laydown reflects more closely what I believe we were talking about, to allow taller buildings. And it also includes, as you pointed out, on the other side of the bay, it includes that little section by Fogneck Beach, which is right up here. So I believe what we're talking about for East End Road would be this section here, and this laydown there. Does that
Yeah, I agree.
reflect what we were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think we should go ahead with the motion and move towards this one,
okay.
the lay down.
So would that be appropriate to make a motion to go with the laydown on page, I guess it doesn't have a page. The laydown map?
So clarify that is what we're talking about.
Right.
So what would this amendment look like on the ordinance?
Okay. So right now it says east of Nash Road. It'd be nice if we could refer to these, you know what, I can't find my paperwork for that.
225 lay down.
Yeah. I can't find the paperwork for the legal description that describes this.
I haven't.
Yes, and should we use the legal description for the other parcels up in the corner there?
Is the commission wanting to exclude those parcels in the corner as well?
No, include.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so if you left the ordinance as it is that says the property must be located east of Nash Road, it would include those parcels near a Fognac Beach because they're east of
Okay.
Nash Road. But then add an amendment that says excluding the 4th of July Creek subdivision number 2 tract G, which is that large Mount Alice tract of land, and the Alaska State DNR land to the east.
Okay.
Would then limit to that 4th of July Valley area.
Okay. Does that sound good to you?
Yes? So
Okay.
is that your motion for an amendment?
Would you like to make that your motion?
Or
Yes.
for Hubbard?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that will go down.
Thank you guys for
Hubbard.
putting me out.
Is there a second for that one?
I'll second.
No? And I can read that, would you like the clerk to read that one again?
Sure.
So east of Nash Road, and the amendment would be east of Nash Road, excluding 4th of July Creek subdivision, number 2, track G, and the Alaska State DNR land to the east, or.
Okay.
So south of Morse Avenue will be street.
That would be a separate amendment,
Be a different.
I think. However, Morse Avenue is part of this map, so let's keep thinking, okay? Because that does include Morse Avenue. How would we squeeze in a discussion about Morse Avenue, which is part of this area, into this discussion?
I'll defer to community development. on that
Okay.
one.
Yeah, the graphic is just to visually help us, but it isn't connected with the ordinance at all. So what would be binding is the verbiage in the ordinance. So it would make sense to me to make this first amendment excluding the track G and the
All
Alaska
that.
State DNR land, and then do a separate ordinance, a separate amendment to strike south of Morris Avenue if that's what the commission desires.
Very good.
And then yeah, the graphic wouldn't be binding at all, and the lines would be adjusted.
Okay.
Doesn't Nash Road stop right at,
At Morris Avenue.
that's where it stops?
Right. Is the commission ready to vote on this amendment to say east of Nash Road and exclude this giant territory around the valley?
I'd like to hear the amendment again.
Sure.
Possible.
So east of Nash Road, and the amendment starts here, excluding 4th of July Creek subdivision, number 2, track G, and the Alaska State DNR land to the east, or.
So east of Nash Road, the only properties are that one up in the corner and then this down here.
Then we eliminate south of Morris Avenue because it's encompassed in the other one. So we're good.
Can we include that too?
If south of
Yeah.
Morris Avenue is eliminated, I guess you wouldn't end that one with the word or, right?
Yeah.
That would be the
She's
period.
asking for
That'd be done.
2 separate.
Well, can't we do it together? Seems convenient.
Would the commission like to discuss the Morris Avenue bullet separately or as part of this?
I can tell you why. It's right up against the view shed even more, but with the conditions noted here, if we're going with that, I mean, that's total industrial area. I just don't see, I don't know.
There is a portion right here that's zone institutional, that's south of Morris Avenue, but it's a very small piece.
Yeah.
So as it
But
stands,
I would like to include south of Morris Avenue too.
so as it stands, this amendment on the floor includes Morris Avenue itself. But I
Is the
like,
commission okay with just adding Morris Avenue in there too? So there'd be no 48 allowed just in that portion.
I'd like to come out just like this later. I think that's an appropriate area.
so if I could suggest, Commissioner Hubbard, that we move forward with the amendment that's on the floor, and then if you'd like to eliminate Morris Avenue South as a separate amendment.
Okay.
Okay, does that sound good? Everyone know what we're voting on?
Yes.
Would you please call for the roll call?
Okay, voting on the proposed first amendment. Hubbard,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Pemberton,
Yes.
and Chair Griswold.
Yes.
That amendment has passed, and the main motion as amended is back on the floor.
Okay. So now, this also allows a maximum of 48 feet, blah, 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 to south of Morris Avenue. Commissioner Hubbard, would you like to address that?
In a motion, you mean? Sure, I would also like to strike south of Morse Avenue for any, from the building height standard of 48 feet. Strike B1A subsection 3.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion, Commissioner Hubbard.
This little piece here is bothering me because there's a lot going on over there, and can you tell me, does that include the tent, or is that's farther back, isn't it? Is it the?
It would include
Jake,
tent.
That includes the tent, yeah. So,
You can almost see
and
it.
you're coming up, you're right up against, you're including the water and the area there, or the beachfront.
Yeah, it's back. Because the beachfront's park.
Well, right along here. Is that beachfront too?
Well,
I mean, it's looking out, that's a view
We
shed.
made the beach a park, so it's not.
Right.
It's not the beach.
So I would like to see, I don't really, I'm not sure how much of a threat is unless they change the zoning rules anyway, but I'm just thinking of maybe it's not that necessary, but I would like to just not see 48 feet in that area.
Okay. And Commissioner Pemberton, were you the second on that?
Yeah, one of my questions is, a lot of people get outside and get outdoors and do things over in that area. And I'm wondering, with that little Morris Avenue track, is that gonna limit, by putting great big buildings there, that's a good place for people to go walk, go get exercise, and then,
Okay.
I don't know how to put that into fancy words, but basically it looks like it's gonna limit, and it's also could affect, you see the low water areas, if something's high there. I mean, the low areas where water can accumulate, if you walked around there, you know that. But, those are my feelings on it, is to protect that area.
Chair Griswold, I just have one thing, because Morris Avenue is a good portion of where JAG has a lot of their buildings, their parking, and everything else right there. It's already, and it's obviously set back, you have a big tent and a variety of other things, and you have a lot of ships that come through there. I'm not sure, for one, I don't know who would want to build something out there that's 48 feet, because it'd be right in the middle of the industrial area anyway. But I don't know if I would necessarily limit it, because the view shed's already compromised with all the stuff that's out there at this point. You've got cranes, you've got all this other stuff that they have there. I'm not sure if that would be a real issue unto itself.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to remind the commission again that anything 48 feet is going to be a CUP.
Yes.
So we can be a case-by-case basis for every single one. So, I think this is an industrial area, and it's close to the beach, but it has to get past commission as well, so I'm okay with not striking it, but
I noticed in our list of things, ABC, that it could be a multi-use building that incorporates commercial and residential uses. So it's possible, let's say JAG wants to build a commercial building, and the incentive would be, well, if you put an apartment on the top for residential use, if somebody wants to live there, maybe a caretaker or something, that would be allowed by CUP.
And now they're all in man camps scattered throughout town that otherwise could be used for
Right.
something else. They could have people right there.
Right, I think in the industrial zone, it's still pretty restricted on
Yes.
how many apartments you could have.
Absolutely.
You could have a caretaker apartment or one apartment with like 2 bedrooms. So it still would be limited, but it would be housing for somebody.
And the CUP still
incentive.
is still a consideration.
Right, and as far as Commissioner Pemberton's point about people walk around, it's not, this industrial area is not conducive to walking around. You drive to the beach and that's where you walk, and this excludes that area. So, as Commissioner Sullivan pointed out, it's already pretty compromised by height. And 48 feet is dwarfed by the 66-foot high tent. And I like the incentive to provide housing, even though it's small, if they want to build a bigger building. And if they don't, then they're back to 34 feet and build whatever they want. Any more discussion, or are we ready for the vote? Please call for the vote.
So this is a vote on the amendment to strike south of Morris Avenue from the proposed ordinance. Hornseth,
No.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Sullivan,
When we're striking south of Morris Avenue, I'm sorry, I just want clarification, what will that mean?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I just want to be sure what I'm talking about here.
It wouldn't be part of this area. We moved up.
It would eliminate that little area.
So, okay. Yes.
Pemberton,
Yes.
Verhey,
No.
and Chair Griswold.
No.
So 4 in favor and 3 against, so that motion is passed. And the main motion as amended is back on the floor.
Okay, so we have removed south of Morris Avenue. Correct?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Fine tuning. Alrighty, let's see.
You have one more, Rhonda.
No, I'm done.
We will now go back to the main motion. Is there any further discussion by the commission? Okay, well, hang on to your hats. I move to no, I don't do that. Wait a minute. Okay. I move to I did find my verbiage. It's right there. So I'll just skip that amendment. I move to amend table 15.10.222 development requirements on page 36 of the packet. And let's just all take a moment to get there. The first row, labeled table of maximum building height feet, 2, parentheses, C note 1, add 2 and 9, next page. In the first row, strike 34 and 38 and replace with 26 feet in the last column under P for park. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I find there is no need for any structure in our park zoning district to be taller than 26 feet. The gazebo at Two Lakes Park, the Rotary gazebo and pump house in Benny Benson Memorial Park, the restroom in Forest Acres Park, and structures in the bike park are all 1 story or less, fitting in with the natural character of the parks. The Branson Pavilion, shower house, and restrooms in Waterfront Park are also 1 story or less to reduce their impact on the views. The Mayor's Memorial is less than 20 feet tall. I believe that raising the building height to 38 feet in the park zoning district is an unintended consequence of the proposed across-the-board building height increase. Now is the time to bring it back down to more reasonable, if still generous, height of 26 feet to protect our views and the character of our parks. Any discussion?
Makes sense to me. I don't think the park needs to have a 38-foot structure.
Yeah, I agree. Good move.
Okay. Call for the vote, please.
Do we need to second it?
I already did.
Okay, no, I didn't hear you.
Grease lightning.
Ready to vote on
Yes,
that
we are.
amendment? Verhey,
Oh,
Yes.
did you want to read it?
Oh, did he read it?
I did not read it. I can reread it. It's just kind of a lengthy one. to
Oh,
read.
okay. Oh, I thought it was,
So
okay, never
amend
mind.
table,
It's just changing P to 26.
Right.
Okay, got it, never
Basically.
mind. I don't want to, don't worry, Chris, I'm sorry.
ready to vote? Fairhay,
Yes.
Pemberton,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Mornseth,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
and Chair Griswold.
Yes.
Okay, that motion is passed, and the main motion as amended is back on the floor.
Okay. I have another amendment. I move to amend Table 1510, 2022 Development Requirements on page 36 of the packet. Same page. First row titled Maximum Building Height to see notes 1, 2, and 9, next page. In the first row, strike 34 and 38 in R1, UR, OR, AC, CB, institutional, and replace with varies 34 or 38 marked with an asterisk and add new note number 2 in the table notes and renumber. The new note number 2 would read, the building height is limited to a maximum height of 34 feet in R1, UR, OR, AC, CB, and institutional zoning district from A Street south. Do I have a second?
One second.
Okay. So the discussion, lots south of the intersection of Phoenix Road and the Seward Highway are allowed to be 3,000 square feet, which is half the size of lots to the north. The majority of the structures, A Street South, are single-family homes in both residential and commercial R1, UR, OR, AC, and CB zoning districts, adjacent to institutional zones. Many of these homes are single-story, only 10 to 15 feet high, or are 1.5-story homes around 20 feet high. Many are on 30 by 100-foot lots. Raising the building height to 38 feet in all zones downtown will create islands of buildings that tower twice to almost 4 times taller than the adjacent homes. The density on the smaller lots, especially A Street South, means that the higher buildings will block views and access to light, invade privacy, and irrevocably change the small-town character and charm of our neighborhoods and historic downtown. The 2030 Comprehensive Plan supports our small-town feel, dynamic historic downtown district, and historical surrounding areas. Volume 2 states that Seward's small-town scale and historic character have been retained through the years. The town site features well-kept older homes that lined paved streets and downtown stores concentrated within easy walking distance of each other. Larger commercial and industrial development is isolated from residential areas. The city shows less of the growing pains of haphazard development found elsewhere in Alaska. My amendment is a compromise that intends to protect our town's small-town character, historic downtown, and homes in both residential and commercial zones from A Street south. Discussion?
I agree with you.
I agree.
I think that the downtown area has a certain charm, and I believe that a lot of people enjoy the tourists, and pretty much everybody enjoys walking through that area and that architecture and small town feel. I think that it also allots people as much of the limited sunshine we do have around here without being crowded out by a building twice or more their height next to them. We do have a few buildings that came up large and tall next to small homes, and I've heard multiple complaints from those people. They're in this hole next to a large building, and most of those buildings failed to comply with their CUPs, so now they're next to a gravel walkway with a unsightly building next to them. I don't think we need to perpetuate that behavior.
Commissioner Pemberton?
I agree. The people I've talked to, the downtown is like a magnet for people. And you walk downtown when there's other people visiting, and they're just in awe of the views and love how downtown is, the section is, and I would agree with it. I think it brings more people in.
Commissioner Hornseth?
Can you go over to zones, or the zones, that was for,
I
was it?
listed all the zones
It was,
that are
it was
down
everything,
south of
okay.
here.
I was just making sure that.
Right,
If I'm on the same page here.
just because we have homes in every zone.
Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think 38 is the modern standard though, and just because we pass 38 doesn't mean tomorrow there's gonna be 38-foot buildings everywhere. It's gonna take time for infill to happen. And right now, we're stifling it. We have a housing crisis. This is what 38 is supposed to solve. It's not solved overnight, it takes time, and nobody's gonna lose their view shed overnight with 38-foot houses everywhere or 38-foot tall buildings. The city's meant to evolve over time, and a 34-foot standard is an ancient, outdated standard. If we want to just see 2-story, that's basically what we're saying for everybody who can't afford a 3-story downtown, and it's gonna stifle a lot of development. We've heard from it tonight. That's it.
Anyone else?
I
Commissioner
concur.
Harvey?
Thank you. Concur with Commissioner Hornseth that we're stifling development by sticking with 34 feet and not giving ourselves a chance to grow in the downtown area.
Thank you.
Chairman Griswold, do you just noted R1 and then jump to urban residential, office residential, AC, CD? and
We
I?
don't have those other zones downtown.
So they're not, okay. And you said an asterisk based on the note A South. Would you consider a CUP for some that wanted to go 38 feet for a particular type of building? Mainly in the central business district?
I feel that most of the, I'm trying to protect our residents who live A Street South in the smaller, older homes. They're part of our charm. They're only 10 to 20 feet high. We're throwing something 38 feet next to them. So I don't think any conditional use permit would resolve that height difference. We would just have enormous buildings next to our treasured historic district in downtown. I think there's other places where those could be developed higher.
Do you not think in the 34, that 34 is going to, even if they go 34, it's still going to impede on review?
I believe 34 feet is enormous in our downtown district. When I think of tall buildings, it's Glacier View Apartments, 34 feet is massive.
Right,
Blocks
but you're-
everybody north of the canyon.
But you're okay with 34, but not 38?
We can't create nonconformities,
Can't go less.
can't go back that far. I think 34 feet is plenty high.
My old neighbor had a small home that has a 34-foot structure that came up next to him, and he's in a dark hole.
It's just so dense downtown, 30 foot by 100
He can go
foot
34
lots.
feet though, right?
Well,
He can
wants
go
to tear
38
down a
feet.
single-family home, I suppose so.
Build on top of it, yeah.
But yeah,
It could make his home more valuable too. He has more height.
I think that's ludicrous, but
And if we resolve the parking issues, someone could build a multifamily dwelling there.
well, downtown doesn't need a multifamily dwelling. That's part of downtown's charm.
So my amendment is a compromise that intends to protect our town's small-town character, historic downtown, and homes in both residential and commercial zones from A Street South. That's the crux of it. Because we do have homes in every district, A Street South that I mentioned. discussion? You ready to call for
Isn't
the
Glacier
vote?
Family, or Glacier View, isn't that a R3? R2, isn't it? That's multifamily.
It's, I
And I'll-
believe you are.
I gotta get my map out. All right.
Yeah, we should always bring zoning maps with
Yes.
us.
Right here.
Yeah.
Computers.
I thought it was pretty thorough, just
Yeah.
driving which districts are A Street South. Are we ready to call for the vote? Yes? Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Voting on Amendment 4 regarding A Street South. Verhey,
No.
Hornseth,
No.
Pemberton,
Yes.
Sullivan,
No.
Hubbard,
No.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
and Chair Griswold.
Yes.
So 3 in favor, 4 against, that motion has failed. The
Okay.
main motion as amended is back on the floor with the first 3 amendments.
Okay. We'll just skip over that one. I move to amend, same deal, page 36. The first row titled Maximum Building Height Feet to see notes 1, 4, and 9, next page. Strike 38 and retain 34 for RR, R1, R2 zoning districts, marked with an asterisk, and add a new note in the table notes and renumber. The new note 4 would read, the building height is limited to a maximum height of 34 feet in the RR, R1, and R2 zoning districts. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, pick one, clerk. The driving force behind this resolution is to provide more housing and lodging options, to relieve the financial burden of the current 34-foot height limit in order to comply with sprinkler systems and other structural requirements for 3-story hotels, and to make multifamily dwellings higher and more financially feasible, and to allow even taller hotels and dwellings up to 45 feet by CUP in selected areas. Raising the building height to 38 feet in our RR, R1, and R2 neighborhoods will create islands of buildings that tower twice to almost 4 times taller than adjacent homes. The higher buildings will block views and access to light, invade privacy, and irrevocably change the character of our town and neighborhoods. This amendment would protect the neighborhood character throughout Seward in the lower density resource RR, R1, and R2 zones where multifamily dwellings, condominiums, townhouses, and hotels are not allowed. Retaining a building height of 34 feet in the lower density residential zones would still allow multifamily dwellings, condos, townhouses, and hotels up to 38 feet in height by CUP in the higher density and commercial zones of R3, UR, OR, AC, HC, CB, and RM. It would also allow hotels up to 38 feet in height outright in AC and by CUP in R3, HC, and CB. Other buildings allowed by code would also be allowed to be 38 feet high, except in the primarily residential zones RR, R1, and R2. To provide incentive for additional housing and lodging, developers could build up to 48 feet high by CUP in selected areas subject to our code that would minimize the impact of the viewshed, privacy, access to light, character of neighborhoods, or historic district on the rest of this town. This includes a multi-use building that incorporates commercial and residential uses. Although this amendment does not protect the homes in the commercial zoning districts, particularly those south of A Street or in our historic district, I offer this amendment as a compromise to help protect the small-town feel, character, and expectations of our lower density RR, R1, and R2 residential neighborhoods throughout Seward, while allowing higher buildings to accommodate hotels and multifamily dwellings in the higher density residential and commercial zones. Any discussion?
I agree with the first one, I agree with this one still, it makes sense. R1's a single family home area, 34. I think it's too high for that anyway, but it is what it is now, so I don't feel like we need to change it.
I agree.
Yes?
Just clarification question. So this one is striking 38 for RR, R1, and R2 citywide?
Right.
Okay. And,
Citywide.
and then, with code, we can build multifamily, you said R3 and denser, is right? Okay. And no duplex in R2, is that right?
R2 is duplex.
R2 is duplex? So, yeah, I mean, that's where I have a problem, is with that, because, this is a ordinance to help housing. And so if we're gonna make it, again, more difficult to build housing we need, and a duplex is definitely one where going tall with a third story helps you get those numbers, then I don't think we should be restricting the height.
What do you think about R1? So you're stuck on R2.
Yeah. R1 and RR, yeah, they're pretty much, I mean, you could argue for RR, it's on a 20,000 square foot lot, who cares if it's really high, you're miles away from anybody. R1, yeah, I could see a little argument there. But I don't really know if people are gonna be building 38. It seems kind of arbitrary to restrict them to 38. From 34 is 4 feet, like again, it comes down to those 4 feet really make a difference in the view shed. So I'm certainly against the amendment just certainly for R2. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, I don't think, again, we should be restrictive, and also it doesn't mean that people will build 38 feet. It does give them a little, that wiggle room if they want to. So I think we're giving people more options, and that's a good thing.
I think you're also penalizing people in R1, you know, by saying you can only do that. My house is over 34 feet. Right now, it's an older home, and nobody's complained about that. The house is in our area, and we live downtown. We live south of A Street, so there's no real major issue there. But again, it's historic homes. A lot of them are shorter, but our taller ones seem to be doing just fine. So, but I don't think we should penalize R1 either.
Frame of reference, Phoenix Heights, is that R2, R1 through R3 up there?
Are you referring to
Phoenix
the
Heights.
development on Dunham Road in Phoenix? Right?
Up
That's
there,
R,
not Hilltop, but Phoenix
right,
Heights.
so that's all R3.
R3?
Like to read the summary one more time? Although this amendment does not protect the homes in the commercial zoning districts, particularly those south of A Street or in our historic district, I offer this amendment as a compromise to help protect the small town feel, character, and expectations of our lower density RR, R1, and R2 residential neighborhoods throughout Seward, while allowing higher buildings to accommodate hotels and multifamily dwellings in the higher density residential and commercial zones.
Just another
Commissioner Hubbard?
point of reference on R2, you're looking at a duplex. So that duplex going up 33 stories and basically housing 2 families. Maybe you could have 4 bedrooms. If it goes up a little higher, I don't know. Versus R3 where this amendment does still allow for 38 feet. So, just a,
If we're in the goal of making especially 2 and 3 bedroom housing, which is what we're clamoring for based on input we've heard, then you're gonna be struggling to do that with 2 stories when you incorporate everything else on R2 property. Like 3 stories get you to what you need. So again, restricting it to 34 is gonna make it more expensive, and that's the kind of housing that's just not gonna happen. So if we want to solve the housing crisis, then lessening these restrictions will help.
Are we ready for the roll call vote? Okay.
Voting on this amendment for the retaining 34 feet for our R1, and R2 zoning districts. Pemberton,
Yes.
Sullivan,
No.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Hornseth,
No.
Verhey,
No.
and Chair Griswold.
Yes.
So 4 in favor, 3 against. That amendment has passed, and the main motion as amended is back on the floor.
Thank you very much.
Clarification, Chair.
Yes.
Didn't you say a cup for the other places? Or did you say a cup for the other places, 38 feet? Didn't you say for the other ones? No. Require a cup? No.
Would you like to make another amendment?
No.
Okay. No. Alrighty. We will now go back to the main motion. Is there any further discussion by the commission? Okay.
One concern that was brought up was down by the harbor,
Harbor Commercial?
the harbor
That one
commercial,
area?
that
That's
one
right there.
area. If we're cleaning up and the buildings, there's already buildings taller.
Would you like to discuss the 26-foot height restriction in
Yes, I would like
certain
to
areas of the harbor?
discuss that, yes. If we already have buildings that are taller, they're out of compliance, right? And if that is already a commercial area, then I would think we would want to leave it, we would want to have it be able to be higher so that everybody's in compliance.
To bring the yacht club into compliance?
Yeah, basically, okay, yes. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
But I would,
And then you're challenging the view shed. It's a nice area.
the yacht club is there and it's out of compliance.
It's only one building.
It's only one building and he's out of compliance.
Is he
We're out
the
of
only
compliance
one
there.
out of
Yes.
compliance
Out of
there?
compliance.
That could be addressed. The history on that is real interesting. It's split off from the other condos.
Oh, I know, I used to live in the other
flood.
place. And they-
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then they
split
dragged it
off,
over
landed
there.
and that's where it's at.
Kind of an emergency landing, I think, and there it is. Well, I feel that the views of our harbor, like from the park on the uplands and from 3rd Avenue, 4th Avenue, are cherished, are picturesque boat harbor. And I feel we're really lucky to have this, and I'm sorry it didn't extend farther north. Many communities on the ocean are a wall of hotels, just like Hawaii, just solid hotels with little, access for pedestrians if you squeeze between them and know where they are. And I'm really pleased that we have this lower 26-foot height limit, which is quaint little shops, those little gifty shoppies, and it's nice. So I'm totally in favor of keeping that instead of having a wall of commercial buildings there.
I agree.
I'd like to just leave it alone.
So is there an amendment to remove it, or we already have 4 people in favor of it? You want to just skip the formalities? So we're going to keep it. Alrighty. We will now go back to the main motion. Is there any further discussion by the commission? Are there any final comments from staff? you're glazing over.
a long day.
Clerk, would you please call for the vote on the main motion?
Okay, final vote on the main motion as amended for Resolution 2025-021. Sullivan,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Fairhay,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Pemberton,
No.
Hubbard,
Yes.
and Chair Griswold.
It's a tough one. I'm going to have to say no.
That resolution has passed, 5 in favor, 2 against.
Next on the agenda is unfinished business. There is none. Next on the agenda is new business. There are no resolutions. Under other new business is a discussion on the work session topic for June 17th. Staff, would you please give an overview?
Sure. As we have been doing, we start our work sessions with a mini educational session, and Kelly was in our office, and this idea came from that conversation about just how it can be difficult for us who do this to navigate Title 15 in our code, and so to expect the public to always have an understanding of it can be, I think, unreasonable at times, and I always enjoy those conversations with the public when I can help them navigate it and be educational aspects. So I think that the kickoff of our work session later this month will be us just kind of running quickly through Title 15 and just how to navigate it, how to read it, how the public can use it better, and you know, for commissioners too, if you're not, if you're a newer commissioner, super familiar with it. And then we will continue the parking conversation. I do think that the last work session, we're having big paradigm conversations while also looking at the current paradigm. And I think because there are a lot of people who could benefit from some tweaks to the outdated current model, I think that's where our good focus should be, is like, let's look at our current paradigm and how can we tweak it to maybe help some people now. And then that's why we got these resources, so that you all can kind of delve into them, and then down the road have again, maybe a bigger paradigm conversation about the parking minimums and what that looks like here in Seward. So kind of those two items will be the plan for the work session.
Any comments from the commission on those topics?
So on the parking work session, as we approached it last time, we had a few items that we were addressing. You want us to continue working on those to help some folks, and then continue to look at a broader picture for the whole area of Seward.
Yeah, you know, like we started to kind of go through, all right, hotel is one parking space per,
Right,
you know,
okay,
like, oh, maybe
so-
we should go down to half. Like more in that vein of like, all right, what are the areas that we know that would be beneficial to modify to be less restrictive for those developments?
Would it be helpful for us to also come to you with some, as we go through that list, and maybe present those before the meeting and some of those?
Yeah, we highlighted a few items in the last work session from items that we've been approached by the public, but if you all, you know, looking through the packet from the last work session, if there are certain items that you think would be important to hit on within the current parking model, let us know, because we'll highlight those, and if you have research ideas for us, we can look into certain things as well, so and feel free to grab a book.
Thank you.
I appreciate that support.
Yep.
That's awesome. Anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, yeah, definitely grab some of those books. There's a lot of good information in those. I haven't read all of those myself, but I've read a few of those. And, you know, you might look at me and wonder why this guy's all wacky about certain topics. And it's because of reading books like those. I don't just jump to conclusions randomly. So I like data-driven solutions, and understand the history of zoning and why things are the way they are has really changed my view. sitting on this commission, so, yeah, anyways, that's it.
Thank you.
I think it's awesome. I hate TV.
Pardon me?
I hate TV. I own lots of books and I read lots of books and I hate TV.
Yeah, check them out.
Well, I wrote them all down.
There you go. Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you. I was, the books are a very good, reference, and also doing some of the studying online with the Planning Association. That's opened your eyes quite a bit too. But as far as data-driven, I'd like, and maybe you've already done this and I'm, missing this, but if, because of the parking issue, in Title 15, one parking spot for, one, whether it's an apartment, apartment or a hotel room or something like that. Is there a methodology that you have or anywhere else, like just even in town, because we're sort of unique, talking to the hotels, talking to different places, the multiple family areas, how many vehicles they have, just sort of like get a feel for it, because it helps us make decisions regarding the Title 15. Is it a 1-for-1 or is it 0.5 or 0.8 or point whatever, per room or something like that? Because, you have to chew on something, because we can make an arbitrary discussion or a decision, but what sounds good, but I'd like to be able to be more supportive of the community.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue with the current paradigm, is like there's no exact science to figure out exactly what should or need to be required. And so, like, do you eliminate them altogether to let the market decide? We did call several months ago all of the hotels in the area and just kind of ask their feedback, like, how much parking do you see, especially in the summer, being utilized? And they gave us a guess, but none of them were very confident in that guess. So it's not something that is tracked. I know Tom shared some of his feedback from his hotels, but yeah, that's if you all know or have ideas, let us know, because we can look into those. But yeah, it's kind of hard to, we reached out to the Chamber of Commerce too, to say, like, do you track how many cars are coming in from visitors? And that's something they're like, and it was their last director, but she, in their data system, it was like an add-on feature. I forget exactly, but they didn't have that feature, and so it's kind of hard to track that. But there's some avenues we can look at.
You just look at it from a standpoint where, because usually when people log into a hotel or something like this, you register your license plate with them, and so they know it's there and all the rest of that stuff. Maybe they don't do that here, I don't know. So people can keep track of what vehicle is where, and then if you have a data run of how many vehicles are registered per average week or however, that you might be able to figure out that stuff. But we may not do that in Seward.
Yeah, I did not get that impression when we made our last round of calls.
The chamber in the past has been really helpful coming up with data, and I just wonder if they could be encouraged to do a traffic count data search.
Yeah, I'll reach out to their new director.
It's amazing what they came up with. It's really impressive.
Nice.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
We need data. Okay, any other comments?
Well, I probably won't be here on the 17th, but I will say I went to the Highliner for dinner, and the restaurant was packed, but I had no problem finding a parking spot. And the city has a lot of parking, and I think the city itself should inventory that and really think about how they can possibly monetize that and make some economic sense out of it, because there's some opportunities in this, and we have, I mean, just the lot over the fire station, and then you look at the new building, the North Star Clinic. It has a gross amount of parking available, and I don't think I've seen more than 5 cars or 6 cars. I know the employees park in the back, but it's got probably way more parking than it needs, I think. So it's kind of an example of how far we're off on our real needs for parking, I think.
Yeah, reach out to Mel, because Parks and Rec oversees the enforcement, and we'll share this information, we'll get into it more, but they have 675 paid parking spaces in the Harbor area, not including the 94 spots in the center lot. That's like that 2-hour parking spot. So, and she said that she would be able to run a report for us.
Oh, good.
And it might not be exact, because it's going to tell you how many cars paid that day. If they're not all paying, it's not going to be exact. But informally, she was like, yeah, in prime summer, it's pretty full in the weekends, but they're enforcement guys usually see a couple of spots here and there during the weekdays, but she's going to kind of help track
That's
that for us as well.
Great. Thank you. Next, here's a reminder of upcoming P&Z meetings. The work session on parking and Title 15 review will be on Tuesday, June 17th at 6 p.m. here. The next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, July 1st at 7 p.m. here. There are no other items. Next on the agenda is final public comments. There's no sign-in for this comment period. Time is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Please raise your hand and I will call you to the table. Sit at the table, speak clearly into the microphone, state your name and whether you live inside or outside city limits. Does anyone in the public wish to speak? Tom Tugas.
I guess I'd like to address, I feel like there's kind of a confusion on the mission of planning and zoning. Earlier this evening, there was a comment that hotel developers want to go to 48 feet so that they can make more money. And the reason that and earlier I made a comment about how the 34 foot added $1 million in cost to building the Gateway Hotel because we had to put the sprinklers and everything was completely difficult. And the comment at that meeting was, well, planning and zoning's mission is not to make things economically viable. And so I think that the cost of developing residential housing in Seward has gone up dramatically. And a lot of it is because there's more and more restrictions on what you can do. I was talking to the staff earlier about putting a fourplex on property on the corner of Bear Drive and Phoenix, which is a larger lot than the 4 lots behind it, which all have fourplexes on them. And of course, they've been, those are now called non-compliant, although they were in compliance when they were built. So areas where we used to allow fourplexes are now only allowed duplexes. And I think that, through this process, every meeting I come to, there's more and more and more restrictions, making it more and more difficult to build multifamily housing. And I always think about, the teachers who come to town, they can't find a place to live because you can't build an apartment, you can't build a fourplex, everything is, is more expensive because of increased restrictions. And I think that, the message in the last several meetings I've come to is that planning and zoning's mission is not to make residential housing more affordable, it's to put more restrictions on and make it more expensive. And I've really seen this probably in the last year and a half where, you say that your goal is to create more housing, and yet it's really difficult to build multifamily housing in Seward, even in auto commercial zones and in R3. This particular lot I'm talking about is zoned R3, but I can only put a duplex on it. And I just feel that you need to think about what is your mission. Is your mission to make it more expensive to develop, or is it really to make it less expensive? And, for example, I didn't build the Gateway Hotel to make more money. I built the Gateway Hotel because I can't sell boat seats without having hotel rooms. And when I came to the city and said I was going to build a 70-room hotel, the city manager said to me, would you build a 200-room hotel? Because we need more hotel rooms to take pressure off of the nightly rentals, the VRBOs and the Airbnbs. The reason that there's however many, 260 VRBOs, is because there are not enough hotel rooms in Seward. And the only way you're going to address that is to make it more reasonable and economically viable. And like I say, when that message came up loud and clear that we're not here to make it more economically viable, like I said, I didn't get in the hotel business to build hotels or even to make more money. I ended up building hotels because my customers can't find a place to stay and still go out on our boat. And, you know, it's the same reason I'm in the rental car business. I'm not in the rental car business because I want to be in the rental car business. 25 years ago, a travel agent said, my only choice when people get to Seward is to put them on a blue bus and send them to Anchorage because there's not a reliable rental car company. So people can't go to the Sea Life Center, they can't go on your boat, they can't do all these things. So I'm in the rental car business because it helps people spend more time in Seward and go on our boats. So I really think that you need to think about what is our mission, you know, is our mission to really encourage and stimulate additional housing in Seward, or to make it more and more restrictive. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to speak? Go ahead, Kelly.
First of all, thank you for making it easier for us to build where I'm not a large developer, so that helps having 38 feet within which to build. We build tiny homes, so I'm not into like building large structures. It'll be a whole new experience. To echo a little bit of what Tom said, it is really hard to build multifamily in Seward. One of the things that I came away with talking with Courtney and Danny the other day is that, especially in CBD, which is what I'm dealing with, is it's not very clear what we're allowed to do. What I'm allowed to do is build a commercial space with one apartment on top. And if you think about what all the commercial spaces downtown look like, there's maybe one that I can think of that has one apartment on top. The rest of them all have 4 to 6 apartments on top. So that in itself is making it difficult and feeds into our parking too, because if we're only allowed one apartment on top, you have to have extra parking for any other apartments. All those buildings are already non-conforming, don't have the parking, and if you change like the definition of like what you can build as CBD, like you could, if you made it to a commercial building with 3 apartments or 4 apartments on top, then most of the buildings downtown would become conforming, would fit into that, and then it would make people like me have a lot easier time trying to figure out how we can build like something with housing on top of a commercial space without having to go through all of this stuff about parking and I might have to do a conditional use permit anyways, depending on how many apartments it is, but kind of looking at what we want to have happen, and it's the same with R3. I know I've looked at multiple times properties that were zoned R3, and it's like impossible to build a multifamily home on them just based on what you have to go through with the code. Looking at those and making them work for the goals that we have. If our goal is to have more housing, make it easy to build housing. If our goal is to have more hotels, make it easy to build more hotels. Like, you guys have the control to kind of do that, but cleaning up like what those zones are able to build, like you should be able to build a large multifamily building in an R3 zone, I believe. Like, that's what it's for. It's supposed to be for 3 or more units. So it's really confusing in the code which zone you could build like a condo. And for a lot of people moving to Seward, to me, that's like your intro to buying a home. Like, if you're able to buy a condo, that's like where you start for a lot of people. And we don't have those in Seward, and there's nowhere in the code that like actually allows you to do that very easily. So looking at some of those things and making it either easier or harder as far as parking goes, and I'd like to like have some of these conversations in the parking work session too. Cleaning those up so that it's clear, because it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a plan for a building, and I want to make sure that when I go and pay that money, that I'm making a plan for a building that is going to be accepted by you and by the building inspector, and not be like, oh no, you're 4 parking spots short, so you're going to have to rework this plan. That's going to cost me another $100,000. So making those things very clear is only going to help any developers to build more hotels, build more housing, and I think that looking at those probably should be something we should either have another work session for, or maybe combine that into the work session with parking, because it kind of fits together. But thank you for all of your time. I know you guys do a lot of work to learn everything that you need to know for these meetings.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? Go ahead, John. Please state your name for the record, inside or out.
John Weisel, outside, and gonna probably get lost here a little bit, sorry I missed the last couple meetings. Hindsight, wish I could have been here, but been busy. We're sold out tonight at the Spruce Lodge, just so everybody knows, and we'll be that way probably all season. We had 8 employees, 52 rooms, 3 cars. 3 employees drove today. You guys say you want data, you need more data. I gave you a lot of data back at my CUP for the hotel downtown, and we came up with like 84 spots. We wanted like 20 employee parking spots. I had 8 less employees drive than I see kayak vans on the road. I don't care. My point is, parking meters, I love it. Increases parking turnover, facilitating businesses in downtown areas, reduces congestion. I don't care, just move them, just move them. It'll free up a spot. It's the best solution, it's the only solution. Also, I know that we like to talk about we should pick off these little ones and get them out of the way. I would say, like Carol had mentioned, you know, they have to have access on their parking lot to maneuver into their parking spot, right, off of the road. When you have multiple parking spots, why? We back out into the main road on 4th Avenue. But that's a restriction that stops the application even getting through administration, because they're like, hey, you gotta have this here because it's written a rule. Get rid of parking. These start coming forward. We're gonna have we're not gonna have any opportunity for people to build here. Last 8 years I've been here, I see nothing downtown. Tom's the only one here that I think that has done anything sizable. And if he's having trouble, the only guy that's had it is having trouble. We talk about treasure downtown. I love downtown. I've invested hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars downtown. It's going nowhere. I can't build, and neither can all of the other vacant lots and derelict buildings. So I have to build out of town. I could build a restaurant tomorrow without a CUP, 68 feet high. Okay, with the roof line, the rules just the way they are. I don't have to ask you for anything. What I am asking you for is 10%. That is the difference of our building codes and standards have increased bare minimum since they were written, right? Building codes have increased way more than 10%. Our dimensional number, our safety standards, everything, sprinklers. We've had fire chiefs talk about it. I'm talking about 10%. I'm not talking about levels of stories, 10%. And I'm talking about a flat roof line. Again, I could go A-frame, just the current rules. I could reach 68 feet, higher than what you see across the bay right here. No problem. That's how the rules are written. Nobody's being maniacal in doing that. We're just asking for common sense so that we can develop downtown. I'm missing it here. My biggest concern is it all impedes on each other. Everyone here has said that they want 2 and 3 bedroom units. I can use my own example of 213 5th Avenue. You know why it's nightly? Because it could never be 2 and 3 bedroom units. I would have needed 16 parking spots, but instead I can have 3 nightly rentals, and I'll make just as much as those 2, 3, 4 bedroom apartments that I could have there, because it couldn't get past your guys' rules. It definitely couldn't pencil out for parking, and it would never pencil out for numbers to build. This is our issue. It's multi-layered, more restrictions. No one's gonna build here. People have we have spent lots of money. Drawings aren't cheap. Land definitely ain't cheap. It's going nowhere. We're trying. I've given at least a year plus of my time multiple times, coming and going, trying to stay involved. It's busy season. Sorry I missed the last one. I barely made this one tonight. I probably won't make the next one. I even wrote Courtney and said I'd get something into her. Can't. It'd be on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Then, next on the agenda is administration and commission comments. Staff, do you have any comments?
I mean, since I've started, I feel like this is the most nuanced legislation we've worked on. The ADUs was a little bit, but this one was a fun one to watch, kind of go back and forth with amendments and maps and the verbiage, and it could have easily just got bogged down, and what are we talking about if you weren't prepared. So I appreciate you coming prepared, so it was kind of easy to kind of go through the laydowns and the language and the pages. That makes it easier on our part, because we work with it all day, every day, so we can have a pretty solid understanding coming in, but it's helpful when you all have prepared. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want to thank the public for being involved. I know it's hard to follow some of these topics when they extend over so many months, and so it's good to see that the public is staying involved, and it just shows how important this topic is for the public. And I made a lot of maps for this meeting, some on my own, some on per request, and maps are definitely helpful, I think, for all of us to understand more. So if there is any other topics that we discussed that any of you feel a map would be beneficial, don't hesitate to ask me, and I'm more than willing to provide maps.
Thank you.
I had one
Sure.
more thing. This housing conversation, at least in my tenure, started in September. That was the first overarching, kind of broke down what we wanted to talk about, and that was one of 6 work sessions that building height was a topic on. We had the meeting last time where it was a discussion item, the joint work session. So this would be like the 9th session that we've had together, and then it'll be an introduction for council, and then their public hearing, so almost a dozen, and we'll see where that goes, because you never know. But we'll do when we take recommendations to council, most of the recommendations are pretty unanimous from the commission. This one, we'll spend some time making sure, I want to make sure that we articulate what was recommended, as well as some of the finer points that had some dissenting 4-3 votes in the amendments. We'll make sure that we articulate that side of it as well as all the public comment that we've received, so that we present a comprehensive, holistic viewpoint of what's led us here. So, thank you.
Commissioners?
I would like to say thank you to everybody for coming. I appreciate what you have to say. I appreciate you coming and talking to us. And feel free to contact me anytime you want to discuss something. Thank you to the staff. You guys are amazing. And Courtney, I love your maps. It makes it much easier. Thank you. And thanks to all fellow commissioners, and especially that clerk sitting over there trying to keep up with us. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment?
I'll take it. So,
Okay.
thank you, Chair, for guiding us and helping us work through all the amendments, and appreciate all that time that you put into those. And you may not win them all, but it's good to have that on the table. I felt like you got a little scolded tonight, and that's okay. But I do think that it is the P&Z's, that is part of their mission, is to not make things so darn difficult for you folks to be able to develop and do what you need to do to, and also I think that we also have to have balance too, and that's kind of where we struggle and we go through this sausage making, and I think you understand that. I ran across some written comments earlier and some discourse of comments or letters on something we had going down earlier, and one person had said that I come to your meetings and they're hard to follow and they're confusing. And it's like, well, yeah, they are hard to follow and they're confusing because we deal with a lot of technical data, And a lot of stuff, I feel like sometimes I need a ruler, or I need MapQuest or something. So, we are a certain amount of AI, I don't know, but things are confusing sometimes, and thankfully we have a staff that can help us through these things, and we have to do our own homework as well. And I just appreciate, again, like Commissioner Pemberton said, that please call. Don't feel shy about calling me up and expressing any concerns you have. As far as addressing this housing issue and what, we do have the goal. It is on the table, and we just passed a 38-foot height restriction from 34 feet. That says something. We are going to be addressing parking. We have to do that. That is a big stumbling block. We addressed ADUs and DADUs. Unfortunately, there was, I remember last summer, we had someone come here, and we had to vote her down because there was something in the code about a breezeway that she had to have, and she couldn't have an apartment above her ADU. And it was just unfortunate. But we got that fixed, and we want to do more of that. And so please keep hounding the office and our staff, and call us, and we will continue to address these things. So anyway, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well,
Go for it.
fantastic comments, by the way. Administration, always fantastic work. Public, it's nice to have people out here. There's 4 of you, but that's more than sometimes. So as many as we can get, it's fantastic. Thank you very much.
How about on this side?
Yeah, well, thank you, really, everybody. I mean, I don't want to make us stay too late here, so thanks for staying so late. But yeah, it was a compromise, I think, on this commission tonight, but it's a step forward, I feel like, and chipping away at the housing problem. So thank you, everybody.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Without belaboring the points that everybody else has already made, because this is the longest commissioner comments I've ever seen. So I just want everybody to have a great night. This has been great, and I think it's great that we actually have we're not all stacked in alignment. We can't. We have to have just different ideas so we can get a better product. So that's all I got.
Could I say one more thing?
No, wait, Vanessa. Vanessa, Vanessa's the
She said she's down now.
I just want to make sure you guys know to go to the city council meetings as well with this. I want to make sure you know. When is the next city council meeting? Chris?
June 9th,
Okay, June 9th.
on Monday.
Okay.
but this probably won't be on that. Takes a little bit. Yeah. At this meeting, the commission approved a recommendation for a preliminary plat, held 2 public hearings, and recommended rezones to resolve split zoning conflicts, and recommended code changes to building heights to promote housing and ease hotel and multifamily construction constraints. I want to say I really appreciate the public input in our decisions, and it's good to have a dose of reality on what happens. I recognize our code is imperfect, and I look forward to reviewing Title 15 and sort of highlighting, like backing out into the street. Everybody's doing that, you know. It's maybe it's a state law, I don't know, but it'd be nice to address these things that are jamming up development. And I had some other stuff. Oh, I really appreciate your support. You're just a phenomenal support team. And all those books you took the initiative to purchase for our use and educate ourselves in our spare time. It's really, really greatly appreciated. And maps on a second's notice and research, really appreciate the staff support. Helps us, guides us. So, the clerk, you did
No
a great
comment.
job
Thank
keeping
you.
us on track. And you have no comments? Okay.
Probably safer that way.
All right, last chance, anybody? I call this meeting adjourned at 9:14 p.m.